Ladies and gentlemen, from a digitally secure location, deep inside the Live Free or Die sovereign state of New Hampshire, it's time once again for that doctor of digital privacy, America's Liberty Belle. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Katherine Albrecht.
Hey, so good to be here with you. Friday, August 24th. Also Saturday and Sunday. Get you into the weekend here, get you through the weekend here. This is a program that has many talents, many skills, many days. But I am live today, Friday, August 24th. If you're hearing this program live, let me give you the call-in number. It's 855-660-4261. My email address is kma@spychips.com. Giving you a heads up on some of the things that are coming down the pike. Earlier this week, we issued and we being Caspian, the 20,000-member consumer privacy organization that I founded back in 1999, we issued a position statement on the use of RFID in schools together with the Electronic Privacy Information Center. You may know them as EPIC.org. We've had their founder, Mark Rotenberg, on the program several times in the past. He's a good friend of mine. And also the Privacy Rights Clearinghouse, which was founded and is headed by Beth Gibbons, also a frequent guest on this radio program. We co-issued this document. We've since gotten endorsements and signatures on this document from a number of privacy and civil liberties organizations, many of which you know from this radio program. The EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, signing on with us. Bruce Schneier, the security and privacy expert and best-selling author. He also endorsed our position statement. We have Big Brother Watch out of England. That's Nick Pickles. He's been a guest on this radio program. The list goes on and on. Constitutional Alliance, Mark Lerner. Greg Nicolettos from We the People Will Not Be Chipped, on and on and on. I could probably spend way more time than I should telling you all of the endorsers of the statement. So what is it, then, that has so many privacy groups concerned that they would join together with us in a coalition that has this much firepower behind it? Really some very talented individuals here, some people who've thought long and hard about issues of privacy and civil liberties. Why are they all joining together at this time to make a statement about the use of RFID in schools? Well, the reason, of course, is that on Monday morning, here coming up in just a couple of days, for some of you hearing this broadcast on Saturday or Sunday, coming up in just a matter of hours, the Northside Independent School District in San Antonio, Texas. That's a mouthful. They go by NISD. That's an easier way to refer to them. But 2 schools in San Antonio will be issuing RFID-tagged student ID badges to their students that they will have to wear around their necks. And they've already been issued. I just learned today that they've already issued those to the students. They had a kind of a back-to-school prep day last week, or earlier this week, I think, for one of the schools, in which they handed these devices out to the students. So students now have these in their possession. They are the size of regular ID badges. They're thicker. They're kind of like a mini cell phone, I suppose, like a really thin, you've ever seen a razor-thin cell phone. They're kind of that degree of thickness. They're, according to the company that manufactures them, they're one of the thinnest active RFID badges on the market. And what does the phrase active mean? Let's get into that for just a moment. There are 2 different kinds of RFID. There are active RFID tags and there are passive RFID tags. There's also kind of semi-active, passive combos, but we'll just focus on the 2 for now. An active RFID tag would be, for example, the toll transponder that some people have in their cars. They have a microchip in them that transmits a unique ID number. They have an antenna. They have a battery that enables them to transmit at a distance. And the battery is what powers the microchip and antenna to send out its signal. So that's how they work. And when the signal is sent out, then a network of reader devices can pick up the signal. And that's in contrast to a passive RFID tag. Passive means that there's no battery on board. The power actually comes from the reader devices themselves. So when you walk past a reader or you hold a tag up to a reader, the reader emits a signal or a power source, a little radio wave, as it were, that wakes up the tag and gets the passive tag to emit its contents in response. So there's passive and active tags. They both have their advantages for tracking inventory. They both have their downsides, potentially for privacy. And the active tags that will be issued at the Northside Independent School District, starting on Monday morning, or actually that have already been issued, are part of a larger program that the school is implementing. Now, the school itself, very excited about this. They are announcing this on their website. They're super excited about their new student locator pilot project. This is a pilot going out in these 2 schools, and if it is successful, then they will roll it out to over 100,000 schools. Well, hold on to the edge of your seats, because I am about to give you the inside scoop on these microchips that are going to be issued at the schools from the very creator of the microchips himself, Mike Wade. He is the president and CEO of Wade Garcia. It is a company that he founded back in 2005 that has done ultrasound patient tracking, started off in healthcare. They've now implemented the RFID-based tracking technology in Houston. They've got a number of students down there, in fact, tens of thousands of students that have been, as he says, successfully using this for now 5 years. And they will be implementing it starting Monday morning, coming up here right around the corner. Let me welcome Mike Wade to the program. Hello, Mike.
How are you?
Hi. Now, Mike is with Wade Garcia. You're the president and CEO of Wade Garcia. And you founded this company back in 2005. Can you give us just a little history on some of the healthcare initiatives that you were involved with?
There were some large hospitals that were willing to wish to track their inventory, wheelchairs, fusion pumps, and whatever. And we decided to research both RFID and ultrasound, and the hospital insisted on having room-level accuracy, and we installed an ultrasound system on 13,000 items.
Now, this kind of blows my mind, because it's actually a pretty extraordinary technology that does the ultrasound tracking. Now, this is not the system that's going to be used in the schools, correct?
No, the system being used is the system we developed. It's an active RFID system using 433 megahertz.
So now give us a sense about these tags. The kids already picked up their tags. They had a prep day, I guess, earlier this week. They went on campus. They got all of their documents and textbooks and everything they need. And along with that, each one of the 4,200 students at this middle school and high school received an active RFID, I guess it's a student ID badge. Can you describe what the badge looks like? Are the students' pictures on the front? Do they look kind of like regular ID?
Yes, it looks like a regular ID, a little thicker than normal ID, and it has a picture and a student ID number. That's all.
A picture and a student ID number.
And there is a barcode where they can use the library system in the cafeteria.
Okay, so now on the inside of the card, what makes this different from just your standard plastic ID card?
There are batteries in the system, in the tag, and then that makes it the active system, and it's picked up on the readers installed in the school.
Now, was your company, it was Wade Garcia that actually did this implementation?
Yes.
So when we talk about reader devices, I know that they're going to have them at the doorway for attendance, and I want to get into some of the reasons as to why this particular school district was having issues with attendance. Where else are the reader devices?
We have readers we will be installing on 260 buses to monitor special need children because they have 270 some odd buses, and they transport I think something like 5,000 or 6,000 special need children, and they are paid by the federal government for transporting special need children. So this gives them a daily count. Now they have to do it manually, but with our system, we can do it automatically.
So now that's just special need kids. What about the regular kids with their regular ID badges that they're already going to have around their necks? Are they going to be tracked also by the buses to be identified when they get on and off the bus?
Just the number I think there's 60 buses that go to the 2 schools for piloting. And yes, they'll be monitored as well on the bus.
Okay.
It gives you a manifest on the bus, who's on the bus, what time they got on, and what time they got off.
I gotcha. All right, we're visiting with Mike Wade. He is the president and CEO of the company Wade Garcia. You can find them online at wadegarcia.com. They were founded in 2005, and they've done RFID tracking of students in Houston, and now starting Monday in San Antonio. Stay tuned. I'm Dr. Katherine Albrecht. We'll be right back. Barcodes and numbers and tracking and symbols, implants so tiny they fit into thimbles, tiny spy cameras that watch while I sing. These are a few of my favorite things. RFID tags and GPS trackers, cookies on websites and chips in my crackers, all the surveillance technology brings. These are a few of my favorite things. Big brother watching to save me from dangers, x-rays at airports and pat-downs by strangers, homeland security acting like kings. These are a few of my favorite things. When I'm cornered, when I'm fed up, when I want to flee, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so free. Okay, we're speaking about one of my favorite things right now. Dr. Katherine Albrecht here with you. I am the co-author of the book Spy Chips, and if you go to spychips.com, you can actually read a copy of the new position paper that we came out with this week, endorsed by the ACLU, the Electronic Privacy Information Center, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and others, with questions about the new system that's being implemented at the San Antonio schools. Joining us to give us the details so that we don't have wild supposition and people understanding the wrong thing about the technology is Mike Wade. He's with Wade Garcia, and you can find them online at wadegarcia.com. They are the company that has landed the contract to implement the RFID badges in the student ID cards at two schools in San Antonio. That's Jay High School and I believe it's Jones Middle School there. So, Mike, give us a sense of how did this particular school district make the decision to do this kind of tracking of their students? It has something to do with attendance. Can you tell us about it?
Well, they've been following the installation in Houston at Spring ISD for several years. And the superintendent at Northside, who just retired, actually worked at Spring many years ago. And so they were familiar with the success of Spring in Houston. So they decided that this year they would do a pilot. And the reasoning behind all this is, one, security, and I can go into more detail later, and the other is ADA, because in Texas the schools are paid on average daily attendance. And normally when the teacher takes attendance, he turns it into an attendance clerk. And then when they run our report, we're able to find children that for some reason or another were not in the classroom for numerous reasons. And because of the...
I'm trying to understand. Go ahead. Let me let you finish there.
Because of the amazing cuts in school funding this year is probably one of the main reasons.
Now, what does it cost to put a program like this together into a school district of this size?
An average high school would, like Jay, would run about $150,000 to install. That includes tags.
And how long will it take for the school to make that back in terms of attendance?
Throughout 2-year payback.
So the idea is that by better keeping track of attendance of the students, then they'll be able to get more federal funding per student, and that pays for the implementation.
So it's actually state funding.
State funding.
That's right.
Okay. Now, within the school, so you've got a system at the front door. Do the kids actually hold their badges up to a reader? I know some people have that in their offices.
It's not in the front door. There's readers about every 100 feet, and they're mounted in the ceiling. You don't even see them. It's just the antenna there. And the kids hands-free walk by. And the last read you find on the map is the last time the reader picked them up.
Okay, so then the kids don't have to actually walk up to some, stand in line and press this in, that it's just kind of seamless in the environment in the ceiling.
Right, yeah.
What would I see if I looked up at the ceiling? If I were to...
I'm sorry?
You said it's hands-free. So what would I see if I were to look up at the ceiling at the school there?
You wouldn't see it unless you really knew. All you see, there's an antenna that comes through the drop ceiling, and you can hardly see it.
And what happens if the kids I know that they wear them on a lanyard around their necks, so they're visible.
Yes.
What happens if the kids say, hey, I don't want to be tracked, I'll just stick it in my pocket, or I'll put it in my backpack, or stick it in the pages of my textbook here?
Well, it'll be an active system. If it's in a backpack or in their pocket, you'd still read it.
Okay, so actives, can you describe for our listeners, I got into a little detail, but the advantages of the active system, I guess, are you can read it through the backpack, you can read it through the books. You can. What is the read range on this?
70 feet indoors.
So if you've got the readers every 100 feet, then the idea is that the kids would pretty much never be outside of the range of a reader during the school day.
Pretty much, yes. We don't put it in gymnasiums and sports facilities because they don't wear a badge. Obviously, they're active in sports, so only in the classroom hallways.
Right, you don't want to be swimming with this thing around your neck.
No.
And then what about places like, the counselor's office, the nurse's station, the bathrooms, I don't know what else they have in high schools, but... Well,
not obviously, there's no reader in the bathrooms, but yes, in some of the offices, we have readers installed.
So kids could just hide out from the system in the bathroom then?
Well, of course they could. And I don't know how long you'd stay in there, but you could hide it. They do that now, even without our readers.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, they probably do. So, but I guess you'd be able to tell that they'd gone into the bathroom because the last place you would have seen their tag would have been outside the bathroom. So it still would. Well,
you would know they were close to the bathroom and they hadn't been red since. Yes, so that would be some idea. If you're watching that closely, which they don't, it's never used to monitor. It's not a real monitoring system. It's a locating system.
Locating. So explain? Yeah, what's the difference?
No one sits at the computer and looks. Right, I'm sorry.
I got you. So what's the difference between monitoring and locating the kids in your...
Well, your camera systems, you have police departments that sit and watch in front of cameras and they're looking for things, and then they actually hire people to do that. In this particular case, you put in a student's name or an ID number and you locate the student in the building if you want to find him.
So if a parent calls and says, hey, I need a little Jimmy to take to a doctor's appointment, then you can log onto the system and just pinpoint, hey, he's in the art room, towards the back.
That's right. He's in the cafeteria, he's in the art room, whatever.
Gotcha. And
that happens a lot. I mean, parents do come almost every day asking.
I can imagine.
And, large school buildings, that's a nice feature.
And how closely can you pinpoint
the Columbine? I'm sorry?
Yeah, I was going to say, can you tell if they're sitting in the front or the back of the room? I mean, how closely do the reader devices actually pinpoint the location?
It's not that accurate. It just tells you they're in that area. Yeah, and you physically get to go there and to see them if it's there, but
gotcha.
It's not that accurate.
All right. And so the idea here is attendance, but I guess what I'm not getting, could you not just put a reader in the doorway so that when they get to school at the beginning, you'd be able to figure out that they're there? Do you have a problem with kids actually leaving campus in this district?
Well, you could put in a system at the doorway, but they're relatively expensive, and use a passive tag.
Right.
Matter of fact, there's HID. They proposed that for schools using their iClass passive reader. But the reader's around $2,000 a door. Pretty expensive.
All right. So when we get back, I want to talk a little bit further about this. The system also extends to tracking the staff and other people in the school. As regular listeners to this program know, I'm not a big fan of this. In fact, I'm probably the world's leading opponent of it, but we want to give Mike Wade a chance to explain how it works. So stay tuned. We'll be right back for more.
RFID, chip in my right hand, and I'll drink that government Kool-Aid when I can. Just be a good little sheeple and buy on command. RFID, chip in my right hand. No ID chip for illegals, but one for you and me. After all, we're the ones who obey willingly. RFID, chip in my right hand. The government says the ID chip is good security. No more sovereign citizen, your inventory. RFID. Chip in my right hand. And I drink that government Kool-Aid when I can. Just be a good little sheeple and fire on command. RFID. Chip in my right hand.
Okay, Mr. Bureaucrat, sir, I'm here for my ID chip injection. Put it there. Ow. It hurts bigger than it looks.
Ouch. All right. Well, on Monday, 4,200 students. Yeah, add a little levity there. 4,200 students will be getting ID chips, not in their hands, but in their ID cards. Joining us here to discuss this is Mike Wade. He is the founder and president of the company that is installing the system, or already has installed the system. Are the readers already there, Mike? Is it already a done deal now?
Yes, the readers are in most schools, yes.
The readers are already there. And now, do the readers emit any kind of energy or electricity themselves?
No.
They just pick it up?
Yes.
And that's what makes the system not the $2,000 per reader system you were talking about, but a little more affordable.
Yes, you can cover more area, and it helps in again being hands-free. And it's also more accurate than the active tag. You get the 99% accuracy.
99%. I guess the passive system was not as accurate?
No, it's not as accurate, no.
So,
a lot of misreads in the passive system.
A lot of misreads, you said. Okay. Now, what are some of the security thoughts about this technology? Because I know some folks have security concerns that if you let kids leave campus and they're broadcasting sort of in a 70-foot radius around themselves an ID cloud, that someone might be able to pick up that signal. What do you say in response to that?
Well, we've had several examples of insecurity. What started it all was a superintendent that was concerned about elementary students being left off a bus in some of the neighborhoods in San Antonio. And one reason is in several areas, almost a 20-mile radius, there were a lot of sex offenders in those neighborhoods. So the first thing she wanted to know was, I would like to know when the child got off the bus. In particular, when they went home at 3:30, because they're responsible up to that moment. In the spring high school, we actually lost a child. She got off the bus at exactly when she was supposed to at 3:15, and she went home and has not been seen since.
So
that was in spring.
Now, does this system allow the students to be tracked after they leave the bus?
Yes, when they get on the bus and off the bus, the reader would read about 50 feet past the bus. And we had that read. We knew she got off the bus at what time. Once she passed the bus and went home, of course, she went home, we lost her, but didn't read any further than that.
Right, so that's a tragic story. That it sounds like the RFID didn't prevent that, but at least it let the school say, hey, it wasn't your fault.
Yeah, it helped the school say, and we knew where she was at that time, when they did the investigation.
Now, are these tags...
unfortunately, no, she's never been found.
So what data is transmitted if you could pick up a signal from one of these tags? What information would you get?
The only thing you'd get is a student ID number.
And that's unique to each student?
And that's unique to each student and to the school. No one else would know.
And are those encrypted? So, or how what's the security on those?
The server's at the school, so they do everything they can to protect the data, obviously.
Okay, so
all the data goes to a server.
Gotcha. But if I had a 433 megahertz reader device in the vicinity of one of these tags, I'd be able to pick it up too. No?
No, it's not that easy. Matter of fact, if you go out and buy 433 megahertz readers today, the odds are it would not read any of the tags.
And why is that?
The tags are designed around that particular reader. So you have to know.
Reader.
Yeah, and that's the case with ours. You just could not go get a 433 megahertz reader and read our tags.
You'd have to have the same protocol installed in it.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
I understand.
Correct.
And who manufactures the tags that you're using?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, you have a manufacturing plant right there?
Yes.
And where are you based?
Yes. We manufacture the tags, the readers, and we wrote the software, all the components.
Okay, so you're like a one-stop operation there.
Yes.
Got it. Now, the song that I played coming back from the break, a little bit of levity there, was RFID chip in my right hand. And I'm up here in New Hampshire where people probably wouldn't raise this issue. But you're down there in the middle of the Bible Belt, Mike, and a lot of people have very deeply held concerns about this technology, that the RFID microchip that's in their kid's ID card is the same microchip that could be implanted literally into a human being. And, once these kids figure out that they can take these things off, they can exchange them, throw in the garbage can, clone them, whatever, then how long is it going to be, do you think, before the school's going to say, hey, we need it in a non-removable, bracelet, and then ultimately, hey, we just want to inject this into your kid's hand?
Well, I hope it never comes to that. I mean, I agree. I'm not in favor of that. Matter of fact, I'm sort of the anti-Big Brother myself. I mean, but for instance, we all use cell phones and we're being monitored every time we use it now. So every time you use a credit card in a retail store, you're just giving up all kinds of information. And so,
I don't actually use a cell phone with GPS tracking capability on it, and I don't use credit cards. I use cash for exactly that reason. So if I were a student in this school, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think a growing number of parents are.
I don't think people realize that every time they swipe a card, there's just what goes on. So I do agree with you. Don't get me wrong.
So the argument I always say to that,
I think there can be abuse at RFID. There's no doubt about it. And so I think in this particular case, it's not, though. And I think schools, the parents want the schools to know where their child is at all times. And so far, 98% of the parents are for it.
And what would you say in response if somebody said, hey, we really do want to implant this into the kids, and the parents are cool with it?
Well, they wouldn't do it with me. That I wouldn't agree with at all.
And when you say 98% of the parents are in agreement, have they done polls? Have they had meetings? Do we know this from actually speaking to parents?
Yeah, they actually send out letters, and then parents, and when we passed out the badges, parents were there, and most parents were in favor of it. There were some parents that were not, obviously.
Right.
Most parents were.
And a lot of those parents...
We had 20,000 students in Houston, and I can tell you maybe 10 parents came forward. That was all.
Out of how many students?
We had 20,000 students wearing badges in Houston.
And only 10 came forward to complain. What was their objection? What did the parents say when they said?
Well, a lot of them thought it was GPS as well, and it could be tracked. You could track the student anywhere, and that just wasn't the case. Once we explained it was only in the schools, it was mostly just a lack of education. But
So this is not a GPS tracking device, and it cannot track the kids after they leave school. One thing that would be possible, though, and we actually saw patents for this when we wrote the book Spy Chips, is to literally drive down the street. If you have a car-mounted reader and you figure out the protocol on the tags, to literally drive down the street and see what houses have Northside Independent School District students in them. I mean, that it would be conceivably possible. And you may look at that and go, well, who would ever do that? But the reality is that there are actually patents for doing that. We found a patent for literally driving down the street on trash day with a car-mounted reader to read the contents of people's garbage and link it up with their homes. So I think one of the concerns here is with an active tag with that kind of a read range that can be read literally through walls, that it really exposes the kids to, maybe after hours, the potential for tracking stalkers and pedophiles and child abusers or disgruntled boyfriends, girlfriends, folks along those lines. So I think there are some security questions, and hey, it's probably going to be a very controversial deployment. I will say that. All right, I'm Dr. Katherine Albrecht. We're visiting with Mike Wade of Wade Garcia, talking about spy chips and San Antonio school kids' IDs. Stay tuned. Some people calling it Big Brother, other people calling it good security. What do you think? Drop me an email. My email address is kma@spychips.com. spychips.com. You can probably tell by the fact that my URL is spychips.com exactly how I feel about this technology. I co-authored the best-selling expose on radio frequency technology titled Spy Chips. Mike Wade is my guest this hour. His company, Wade Garcia, online at wadegarcia.com, is implementing the RFID system, or actually already has, in 2 schools. This is a pilot student tracking system that goes into effect first thing Monday morning, 7:30 a.m. I guess students get there about 8:30, so they've already got their ID badges in hand, and when they show up to school for the first day on Monday morning, the system will kick into gear, automatically taking attendance and keeping tabs on their location. Mike Wade, tell me, within the school district, superintendents and trustees and principals, there's a whole hierarchy of folks there. Are they all in favor of this project?
On the staff side, yes, there are some board members that were, I think, a bit concerned, even though they approved it. But on the staff side, I would say 95% were all for it. Yes.
Now, this is staff members who they themselves are going to be tracked. I would think some of them would say, hey, when I go into the copy room or the teacher lounge, I don't want to be tracked. So what?
I'm not sure that the staff's want to wear badges, but I think the only people that are allowed to monitor the staff is the police department.
Okay. And who has access to monitoring the students on campus?
That would be attendance clerks, principal. Only a few people in the building have the access to the.
And do you know that if the system actually keeps track so that they can go back? Well, I guess it must, because if you were able to tell when a kid got off the bus, then it's clearly logging the location of the kids.
Yeah.
So it is keeping track. Now, how do you respond, Mike? Because I know you've done this down in Houston, and 36,000 students, you say down there for 5 years, have been tracked with this technology, and only a handful of parents have ever objected. So when people say, like myself, for example, because I've been, screaming from the rafters, RFID tracking of people is going to lead us down a very bad road, and it's going to lead to chip implants. It's going to lead to total government control and totalitarian control. They're going to want to chip you in your bathroom and watch you on the toilet, and you're gonna have no freedom. So when people like myself start saying, Mike, you're a nice guy, but the technology that you're implementing is really sending society in a dangerous direction, and it's Big Brother. How do you respond to that?
Well, I've been doing this now for 5 years, and I don't see that. What I see is a real valuable system. This is the 5th year the school's purchased it, so apparently they see the benefit both on the security and ADA. And I wouldn't do it otherwise. I see that this is something that they do feel it's a useful product, and it provides a service, and it helps them in securing the kids, and they are responsible for them while they're in the building.
Now, what would happen, let me ask you, what would happen if, say, the majority of students and parents came out and said, hey, Mike, we appreciate what you're trying to do, but we're really not comfortable with this technology, and we don't want it. And it was only the administration and the staff and the board members who did, but the students and the parents themselves said, we don't want it. How would you respond? What would you feel at that point?
Well, I'd be out of business, but I do believe that the parents certainly have that right, and if that was the case, the board of directors would not do it. So, I think it comes down to they want to please the parents as well, and they thought for 1 minute that all the parents in the school were against this, they probably wouldn't do it. So,
all right.
So far, I've not seen that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so we're actually hearing from some parents in that area who actually do have some concerns. So, I'd love to see this kind of put to a community vote. One of the things they said on the website is that they were going to have some meetings and invite parents and get the stakeholders in and see what people had to say. And we're hearing from a lot of parents, including some who went to the board meeting last week, who were forbidden from speaking. They were actually told that they could not speak about this, and they had to wait for some future meeting, but we don't know when that meeting's even going to happen. So it could be possible, Mike, that you're not hearing from parents because they're really not being given an opportunity to speak out.
Well, like I say, I was there when they issued the tags, and there were parents with almost every child. And like I said, there was a couple of people that, there was 2 mothers in particular that said she did not like it. But the rest of the people were not that way at all. So
what did you tell them how did you describe the tags to them? I'm wondering, I know a lot of them don't speak English, so that's actually one of the most heavily Hispanic districts in ESL or second language Spanish-speaking districts in the country. So it's possible some of them didn't know what was going on, but for the ones who did, how did you explain what the tags were?
Well, if you notice, I don't know if you've seen it, but the websites of each school, they go into detail both in Spanish and English, just how the system works. It's there on the website. And they were all received letters, both in English and Spanish.
Okay.
So, and everyone that passed out badges that I was there were bilingual. They could speak Spanish or English.
Right.
And so I think the parents, for the most part, were pretty well informed.
Now,
I think I could probably do more every day, but as school starts, there'll probably be more parents coming forward that maybe didn't know. But I know that of the 3,000 students today, 2,400 got badges.
Okay, so a lot of students walked home with these badges, and you haven't heard the opposition yet from that. Now, I know a lot of people out there, again, in the Bible Belt, they hear about this technology, and they refer to the mark of the beast. This is in the book of Revelation, talks about a time you won't be able to buy or sell without a mark or a number in your right hand or your forehead. And a lot of people say that you are launching a technology that's just taken us one step closer to the mark of the beast. Are you a believing man? How do you reconcile that?
I don't quite understand that, but you do hear of it, especially in the Bible Belt. And again, I think that's just a lack of education, to be quite frank.
A lack of education on whose part? Well,
this is not a religious issue. I mean, but I'm sure there's some people believe that, yes.
So, but you're not among them.
No.
Because, I grew up being told long before there were computers, internet, RFID tags, microchips, or any of this, that there would come a time when people would have a number on their right hand and they'd need it to buy and sell. And now I'm seeing people actually needing these numbers, which can be implanted, by the way, into people's right hands. Forbes just did a big story on Amal Grafstra and other guys who've been implanting themselves with this stuff. This same technology that's in the ID badges that you're issuing can be put into the right hands of kids and used in the same way to track and monitor them. And so we're so close. Those of us who do believe in biblical prophecy, we're like right on the edge of that.
Well, again, that's I understand. There are people that are concerned in that regard, but that's not the case with me.
Well, if they held that concern,
I don't hear that very often here in Texas, and we are in the Bible Belt.
Okay, but if a student were concerned about that, let's say Monday morning, first thing Monday morning, because we have actually heard from some parents who are concerned about that. This is a mandatory system, so those kids who believe that this is leading to the mark of the beast. And literally satanic technology. I mean, I'll just come out and say it. Demonic, satanic technology. Those are kids who don't want the system, the technology, and yet it's mandatory. They're required to have it.
Well, I can tell you it's spring. I don't know what Northside will do, but anytime a parent came forward and did not want the child to wear it for that reason, I'm sure they wouldn't have to wear it.
And so what did they do instead for those kids? Did they just issue them a different ID card?
They just wouldn't wear a badge.
And wouldn't every other kid on campus notice that kid wasn't wearing a badge? I mean, I think
probably after a while they'd realize it. But,
yeah.
Again, this doesn't happen that often. So,
all right.
But I'm sure if a parent was concerned that the school would not insist that you wear a badge.
Well, these are all things that we're going to be figuring out. I know that there are parents and organizers, including a number of them with my own organization, who are going to be there actually on Monday morning when the project rolls out. And I would encourage you, Mike, check out spychips.com. We've got a position paper up there, and I'm going to follow up with you after.
I did see it.
Yeah, and I'm going to follow up with you after I get off the air here, and I want to send you the letter that we're going to be sending out, so you can kind of be on top of how people are responding to this. So I do want to thank you for being a good sport. I want to thank you for coming on the show and setting the record straight about what's going on. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mike Wade. Mike Wade, President and CEO of WadeGarcia.com, the company that's implementing RFID tracking in San Antonio on Monday. I'm Dr. Katherine Albrecht. Stay tuned. We'll be back in the second hour with more.